and welcome to the Spiraling Higher podcast, hosted by me, Sam, mindset and manifestation coach.
And me, Gina, your biz and mindset coach. We're here to support you on your spiritual journey by bringing you intimate and raw conversations about healing, manifestation, consciousness, and spirituality.
We hope this podcast makes you feel less alone as you become aware of your patterns and limiting beliefs to up-level your life, manifest like a boss, and together, spiral higher. Welcome back, Spiralers. I am one of your co-hosts, Sam, and I'm here with my beautiful co-host, Gina.
It's me.
And we're actually reuniting after a couple trips.
Many moons apart.
Many moons apart. Yeah, you went to LA.
Yes,
I went to Orlando, Florida.
And one of the coolest parts about my trip is that I actually got to meet a spiraler.
No, multiple spiralers.
Well, multiple. They were our clients and friends, but I met Glow.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
she's in our community.
She's in our community. So some of you who come to our community calls have probably had the pleasure of partnering with her in some of the breakout rooms, but she always offers such awesome insights and shares and support for everyone in the group. But yeah, I took my daughter to Disneyland, surprise, surprise, and she met us there. So we got to say hi, take some photos. She walked us to one of the rides, and it was really sweet.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, that's the thing about me and Gina. If we meet you like once, whether it's online or not, you're just in our circle now. And
you're in.
Yeah. And if we're in your area, we will literally text you or message you on Instagram and meet up. I don't think I met a spiraler at my event. I don't know. Maybe I did. Maybe I just wasn't aware that they listened to the podcast.
They were in the vortex, but yeah, maybe they just didn't make it known.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I'm really so happy for you. You had such an incredible family, like reinforcing experience with your daughter. And then, yeah, I had such an incredible weekend. It was my very first public speaking gig. Woo-hoo! Which was a huge manifestation for me. And actually, I'm going to record a solo episode all about my journey to manifesting this experience and my internal experience of what it was like to experience something like that, especially all of the internal narratives that came up. Because Gina and I definitely want everyone who listens to know that showing up in this way is not just like an easy peasy thing for us. There is so much that goes on, so much work that happens beneath the surface that enables us to show up as space holders and as leaders. And so, yeah, I'm going to record a whole thing about that because we just don't have time for it.
Yeah, I actually want to record potentially also a little episode about my trip with my daughter because it was such an interesting, my daughter is truly the most natural manifester on earth. And observing her and the things that happened, and literally her dreams came true. But there was a lot of things that I also experienced just as her mom, and I see her as such a mirror for my inner child. So anyways, that may be an episode coming out as well, where we can just share also just what we did leading up to the trip to actually create the most ideal, perfect. Like everything really did work out perfectly for us. And I just would love to share what we did on the front end to allow that to happen and get created. So that may be coming.
I mean, you really set the intentions. Like
I did.
And I think this is very important, you guys. We energetically prepare for everything.
Yes.
It's not just, oh, here's my checklist. Here's what I'm packing. It's how do I want to feel? How can I access that now? What can
100%.
I remember during this trip? Because it's not going to be all quote unquote perfect. There will be things that happen that along the way. It's travel, right? There's so many unexpected factors that could come up. And so we even prepare energetically how we're going to respond to those things. Like all of this is such incredible prep work for the experience so that we can have the best time. It's almost like being an event planner, an energetic event planner for our own life.
Oh my God, I love that. That's totally what it's like.
Because when you think about an event, you're like, okay, how are the guests going to feel when they arrive? How can we make them feel connected? How can we, direct them in the space so that everything kind of makes sense? And we really do that for ourselves and for our joint shared trips whenever we go away.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of intention setting. And for any parent that's listening, this episode might also be supportive for you to hear because I think this was my first time traveling with my daughter alone, which was a whole other thing. And so, yeah, there might be some parenting nuggets in there as well. But yeah, listen, stay tuned for these
Yeah.
solo eps that might be coming
Oh,
out soon. Yeah.
I think that's actually what it's going to be about, Gina, because
What is
me
it?
and Gina were both talking about this before, and we were fleshing out what these little soliloquies would be like. But I like where you're going with that.
Oh,
Yeah,
where
all the
was I going with
parenting,
it?
the parenting nuggets, because
Oh,
I forgot that it was your first trip alone with her. Your
yeah.
husband wasn't there, so obviously the dynamic is different. All the responsibility falls onto you. So I know you learned a lot from that.
There was a lot, and just as like a, I guess, preview to it as well, there was a lot of anxiety leading up to it, on my end, but also my daughter's. So that was interesting to, usually I would go on a trip with you and you're
Hmm.
chilling, but it's interesting to go with my child who is experiencing this kind of anxiety for the first time, honestly, and the way that it impacted me, but how I moved through it. And ultimately, both of us have expressed since coming back the expansion of our window of tolerance with our nervous system, the ability for that flexibility in our nervous system as well. So, yeah, I would love to kind of. I thought at first I wouldn't have a lot to say about it. And now I'm like, wait, there's actually so much
There's
I
so
have to
much.
say. So we'll talk
We
about that in our solo monologue episodes. But today's episode, we really wanted to come with kind of like I don't know, we were calling it a cutesy breakdown or framework, if you will. But really, we just wanted to share 5 things that we could think of that we just wish we knew sooner. Now, that doesn't mean we actually wish we could go in time and change it, because we believe in divine timing and we know that we learned these lessons when we needed to. But these would have been nice to know ahead of time.
Right? These would have been so nice. And I feel like I don't see anyone telling me these things. These were things I like, why didn't they tell me this, right?
Yeah.
I wish people had told me sooner, but also I will say that these things that we're going to say to you today, the 5 things we wish we knew sooner, they are learned experiences.
I was just going to say that. I feel like that's, even if someone had flat out said, here's a list of 5 things that you should know, we just wouldn't even know what to know inside of these wisdom nuggets. Like, you
Exactly.
just wouldn't even know what to know. Cause I feel like even when, I don't know, when I had my first boyfriend, and I always had people older than me being like, it won't matter. You're not going to care about that when you're older. Like, that's just,
True.
and I was like, no, this is the love of my life. I'm
Yeah.
14 and I know this is the one for me.
I am
This
14
is
and I
it.
know everything.
Yes.
In case you didn't know.
Yeah.
It's so true. If someone had given me this list of 5 things, it would have been almost as irrelevant as someone telling me how to change the oil in my car. Honestly, I'd be like, "Oh, interesting. So that's how you change the oil in the car." But I don't
Right.
actually have the experience of doing that. And it's funny I just
Right.
mentioned that because I literally booked an oil change today. And I did think to myself, this would be a lot easier if I knew how to do this and I didn't have to book this and pay for this. But again, just not my circus, not my monkeys. I'm not learning how to do that. So yeah, these experiences, although we want to provide them to you as sort of a summation of everything that we
Yeah.
have gone through, the work is experiential, it's inward, and it can be long, right? These 5 things, I was kind of chuckling as we were coming up with them quickly on the spot, but in reality, these took years to actually integrate and be able to quickly recall now because we've done the work. We're like, oh, yeah, that's a big one. We have to mention that. But we wouldn't know to mention this if we hadn't actually gone through it.
Absolutely. And I feel like these are still things that we need to be reminded of in different seasons of our life, in different scenarios. And
Hmm.
so these get to be ones that you all have as little cushions to fall back on anytime you might need these loving reminders.
That was so sweet.
Little pillows of
Little pillows. Your
wisdom.
5 little pillows of wisdom.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to jump into the first one.
This is a good one.
And the first one was the one, I mean, we both struggled with this.
Mm,
I am literally making this my entire book, but you cannot hate yourself into loving yourself.
mm,
It's
mhm,
just not possible. And so I call this the paradox of choosing love,
mm,
because we really think that by judging and rejecting and shaming what we believe is unacceptable, unlovable, that we will become repaired, fixed, improved versions of ourselves that we can love.
mhm.
But in doing that, we're literally creating and perpetuating that we're unlovable.
Yeah.
And so we never get there. There's one thing that you fix, and then that bursts another. And so we just stay on the wheel of self hating, self judging, self criticizing. And so this paradox of choosing love took me years because I was
Mhm.
like, but I can't accept myself because that would be the worst, terrible, awful thing to happen to me. These things are so unacceptable. But it was in accepting what I perceived as unacceptable that made me feel worthy of love.
Mm.
Because trying to become worthy of love was what reinforced that I was unworthy of it.
Well, totally. I mean, imagine that in our relationship if I was like, "I love you, but I just don't like these parts, so can you stop these, and then I'll love you?" That feels so unloving.
So
But I
unloving.
think it's confusing, and this is why this is the first one we're bringing up, because I think when you're on this healing journey, you are looking at these wounds, and the thought of accepting and loving these parts almost feels like what you're saying is, "This is good, and I like this, and I wanna keep it."
Mhm.
But we can still love and accept ourselves and still move into change and transformation. It's a totally different energetic experience than when we're hiding it and shaming it and blasting ourselves for having this as part of us instead of accepting it as a whole piece of us. It's all connected, and I think the most loving thing that we can do, I mean, we talked about this in one of our recent episodes, right, about self-love. It really
Mhm.
is being able to see ourselves through the eyes of love and seeing that every part of us is lovable, even the parts of us that are still wounded.
Yeah. It is truly a paradox. It's like a Chinese finger
Mhm.
trap because
Yeah.
the acceptance is the thing that we abhor from the
Yep.
place of self-rejection, but it's actually the ingredient you need to create change.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so the thing we're trying to change through rejection is actually the perpetuation. And that's why this is something that you can't just hear and know to
Yeah.
be true. You have to experience what it looks like and feels like to accept a part of yourself that you perceive as unacceptable. And that is
Yeah.
very tough shadow work. Let me
Oh
just
my
say.
gosh. This is all shadow work, and I will say, I don't know if this is true for you, but I would say for me that I couldn't learn and embody this lesson until basically I tried with all my might to hate
Yes.
myself into loving myself.
Oh yeah, you have to go like all the way. Like
All the way.
you have to find out with all your might that it actually doesn't work. But you don't
Yeah,
know that it doesn't work until you exercise all the self-hatred that you can possibly use
exactly.
on your
Yeah,
journey. And yeah, we both went to the depths of self-hate for sure.
yeah,
For sure. And I wished it worked. Like,
totally.
I was like, please, please. Like I'm trying so hard to change everything. I hate myself so much. Please work. But
Mm,
God, source, universe, the energy of love was like, sorry, you just can't get in that way. Like
no,
it's a love based economy, and
totally.
I was trying to use the wrong currency,
Mm, you're spending
but
hate dollars.
I was spending hate dollars, and they're like, we don't accept that here, and I was like, please, I have so many.
So much.
I've acquired so many hate dollars, but yeah, unfortunately, the kingdom of heaven, right? The heaven on earth I wanted to experience was only willing to accept love dollars, unfortunately. But
Mm,
I say unfortunately as, kind of like tongue in cheek because it's actually fortunate that
yeah.
that's how it actually happens.
Yeah, and you know what? I think being on the other side of this, it is amazing how I can still observe my inner wounds and parts of myself that might still be in the shadow, but that I can really still love that about me. And the
Mhm.
only way that I can express this is if you are a parent or if you can relate to being one, or like maybe you love your parents or your family members, but it really does just feel like that kind of level of unconditional love, that there's just literally nothing that my daughter could do or say or stumble through in her life that would ever change my love for her or the way that I see her. And I think it's about being able to embody that within ourselves and really, again, like loving the full meal deal, and seeing them as valuable in their own ways. Because I think at the end of the day, shadow work, one of the biggest things that you'll learn when you do it is that the shadow is where you find the light.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
It's
it's a
where
big
you have to
one.
bring the light to.
Yeah. What's where the
Yeah.
light is actually suppressed. So there's actually light already there.
Yes.
It's just been
Ooh.
snuffed.
Ooh. Gina. I call them Gina gems.
Gina Gems. Oh, I've
Um,
been doing this thing with Emmeline's little sayings. Did a poll on my post the other day of what should I call Emmeline's little nuggets, and everyone voted for Emspiration.
oh God, that's so good. That is
Emspirations.
so good. There's a lot of inspiration to be sprinkled in the world. So
Yes, we'll
I
bring
do
those to
hope
you.
I do hope you make that a series.
I shall.
We also went deeper into this topic, I think, in our perfectionism episode, if
Mm.
any of this is resonating. So feel free to scroll back in time. All of our episodes are resonant, no matter what year it is. They are
Oh,
not
yeah.
time based, they are frequency based. So
They're evergreen.
feel free to go back in time
Yeah,
to,
definitely
yeah.
listen to the self-love one if you haven't already.
Mm-hmm. Hey, spiralers, it's that time of year again where we invite you to take our relationship and healing journey to a whole new level. So, if you've been craving deep healing and aligned sisterhood, this is your invitation to the exclusive annual Spiraling Higher retreat this June for a conscious, healing, playful weekend. Imagine waking up to ocean views and stunning sunrises in La Paz, Mexico, near Cabo, where you'll spend 4 transformative days with like minded women, all here for the same purpose: to awaken your hidden dreams, unleash your full potential, and break free from the patterns that hold you back. This June 7th through 10th, we're inviting the most aligned members from our community to join us for this retreat. We've thoughtfully designed this experience to be intimate, powerful, and deeply aligned with the work we've been doing together on the podcast. You'll be sharing a beautiful double room accommodation with another spiraler, someone hand-selected just for you based on birth chart synastry, ensuring a deeply enriching connection. From morning meditations and breath work to guided workshops and leisure time in the sun and sand, every moment is designed to support your transformation. With all meals, all activities included, even transportation to and from the airport, all you need to bring is your openness to grow and connect. This is more than just a retreat. It's a call to tap into your intuition and authentic self in a community that was created just for you. This experience is ultimately for the women who are ready to step into their highest vibration and finally say yes to their deepest desires. And we have less than 10 spots available, so if you feel that nudge, that inner call to join us, don't hesitate. Head to the link in our show notes for more details. We can't wait to see you there. Okay, number 2. So we said all true change happens sustainably, aka trust the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, trust the journey because it can be a slow burn.
And it's so funny though, because I think in hindsight, you can look back. This is probably just life in general, where it feels like it's going so slow, but then when you look back, it feels really fast. But I will say, in general, when it comes to healing and creating change in our life, it's it's incremental, right? It's inch by inch, and because it needs to be an embodiment, we actually need life experience for that opportunity to embody it. And that's also why it has to happen slowly and sustainably, because we also don't experience, like, we can only experience this present moment. And so we can't really jam pack, a year into one moment. And so I think when it comes to creating change, I think a lot of us are on a race to just get over with this already. I just want to get rid
Mhm.
of this and hurry up. But anything that might even feel like it works instantaneously, it's always just going to rebound back.
It's always a scam. Like, a quick fix is always a scam. Like, there's no get rich quick scheme, there's no
No.
get healed quick scheme. Like, and we know that because if you break a bone, you're like, "Okay, 8 weeks or more." Like, that is
Yeah.
the timeline. There is no getting up and walking on this or using this right away. Healing takes
Hmm.
time. And I think what I had to get curious about was what part of me wants it to heal so fast?
Exactly.
Like, what is my relationship to that?
Yeah.
And because I tried to heal so fast, I was slingshotting back and forth, constantly pendulum swinging for
Hmm.
years because I wasn't willing to accept change at a sustainable pace. I was like, no, I can change this very quickly. And the other thing I'll mention too is a lot of intellectualizers listen to our podcast, are inside of our community. And if you're anything like me, you might have a very strong intellectual awareness of exactly everything that needs to change.
Hmm.
And I had to accept that that intellectual awareness for me would precede the somatic integration of what I could put
Mm.
into words. And I thought just because I knew it in my thoughts that it would just translate into my body.
Mhm.
Like, I knew, for example, as a fact, like, I need this many hours of rest. That's different than actually getting that many hours of rest. And so that's just a
Mhm.
small microcosm example of what it looked like to create large scale somatic integrated change in my body. But I didn't want to go slow. And that's what actually slowed me down.
Mm. Yeah, I
So
mean,
it really, yeah.
I feel like that goes back to our first point. I feel like you're in a rush to heal because you're trying to love yourself. And so we're trying to skip the part where we have things that we don't like about ourselves. And so we're in such a hurry. Like, I just want to get this over with so I can finally love myself. But that's once again what's keeping you from loving yourself. You're really just
Mhm.
running away from yourself at the end of the day. I would say the
Yeah.
other thing I would add to this whole change um, topic is that there's often chaos before change. And sometimes after, when we had healed from
Mhm.
our adrenaline addiction and our hustling, overachieving nature, it felt terrible to slow down. And the idea of slowing down for us was so that we would feel better. And so then when it started to feel terrible, it was very confusing and felt almost like, why the hell are we doing this? It's so much easier to just keep going fast. And so change inherently will create some discomfort and a lot of
Yes.
unfamiliarity, which can feel really unsafe. And especially in relation to other people in our life, when we change, it also triggers something in the people around us because they're seeing the person that they know shift and become something different.
Mhm.
And so, even
Mhm.
that can also contribute to how slow it can feel because all of these components kind of come up and it kind of almost make us feel like we're regressing because these things might trigger us back into these patterns. But again, we have to see that every trigger is truly a portal to us coming back closer to ourselves. And again, you want the
Yes.
change to be slow and sustainable so it sticks. Um,
Yes.
yeah, but it's a hard truth to believe. And once again, something you're gonna have to experience for yourself before you really believe and take our word for it. Because
Yeah,
we've tried.
honestly. Oh, yeah, we
Yeah.
100% tried, and also, I would create a really fast change and then experience, quote, unquote, "positive results" for, like, 2
Yeah.
weeks, and I was like, "Guys, I'm changed." Like,
I fixed it.
I'm renewed. Like, I am healed.
Yeah.
And, of course, because I tried to implement something so quickly, I was just experiencing, like, the high of, like, a new mechanism, but
Mhm.
it wasn't something that had been slowly and sustainably integrated, so it would eventually fail.
Mhm.
And like a really good example is like using like energy drinks or something like that. Like if you felt
Mm.
tired and then you ingested something, you'd be like, I feel fine. I feel great. But
Totally.
you didn't actually create a natural fuel source for yourself. And so
Mm.
it's only a matter of time before your body's like, yeah, that just was to get us through this like week or so. That wasn't to get us through this life. And I started actually zooming out and thinking way more about the long game. I
Yeah.
was like, how do I not just feel good this week, but how do I feel good this year?
Mhm.
And that's very hard for me as I'm like an Aries sun, Aries moon. I'm just like, today, let's get it done. Not tomorrow, today. And so zooming out was how I had to really see my healing journey because yeah, I just wanted it to like be over. I was like, let me run again, let me do all these things. And I even have physical examples that parallel this. I remember having a
Yeah.
grade 3 sprain when I was 18. I was dancing ballet professionally. And do you think I waited until it was healed to start dancing again? Absolutely not. I hadn't learned anything at that point. This ankle gives me problems like 15 years later.
Yeah.
And I just wish, I mean, accepting that, it's a great reflection, it's a reminder, but I just wish I sat my ass down for like an extra month
Yeah.
because it would have given me back years of discomfort. And so, again, like Gina said, unfortunately, you're going to have to learn it through your own body. You will not change something overnight.
Yeah, and I think this comes brings me to our one of our favorite sayings, which is that words don't teach, experience does. And that's why we can intellectually understand something very quickly, But in order for that to be a lived experience that the cells in our body know and are familiar with, that takes experience and takes multiple
Mhm.
experiences. And if you think about how patterned a lot of these wounds are in our system, it would be pretty asinine to believe that one hit wonder would
Yeah.
completely, erase or reverse all of this. And again, I don't even think the goal is to erase or reverse it. I think that's a whole other part of the healing journey, is once again to integrate it, all of these parts of us. And so, yeah, if you feel like it's taking a long time, then you're right on track.
You're right on track. And like Gina said too, if you look back in a year from now on this past year, you'll actually see that it wasn't that slow.
Yeah,
It was just your perception had altered so quickly because you were changing a pattern. So from the old pattern, it looks slow.
yeah.
But from the new pattern that you're learning to build, you'll have a different perspective on the speed
Yeah, they have different
because
clocks.
they have different clocks. Yes, they have
Yeah,
different measurements because we look back now and we're like, "Oh, yeah, we really healed from a lot of that adrenaline and hustling within, like, 6 months."
yeah.
Like, if I actually think about how long we were operating that way, 6 months is kinda short.
So true.
Yeah, and, like, we've obviously cycled through, like, repeat cycles because we are spiraling higher here, but it did actually, when I zoomed out, actually appear much, much faster than I thought. It's kinda like the objects are closer in the mirror than they appear thing.
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
yeah. It felt slow for sure at the time. But you're right, in hindsight, that was such a it's almost like I don't even remember that that was a thing that we
exactly.
experienced, or
Yeah.
that we struggled with, because it feels so far removed. And the reason why we feel so rooted in this new paradigm is, again, because of the experience that we went through to
Yes.
actually embody what we knew intellectually into our somatic experience. And
Mhm.
yeah, it wasn't comfortable, but it was necessary, and I'm so glad we took our time with it, because that's always gonna be
Yeah,
reflective in
yeah.
really the lasting effects.
You really can't give yourself enough time, like, trust me. Like,
Yes.
you will benefit, and if you wanna listen to more about the healing from the hustle, I think that's episode 41.
Yeah, you're so good
We
with the episode numbers.
I don't know how I remember them, like, so good. I'm like, "Ooh, 41." I just, like, see it in my brain. But okay, moving on. Number 3, you need
Mm.
community. You
Yes,
cannot heal alone.
you cannot.
So, before Gina and I met, I think we were doing our best on our, like, silo healing journeys, like reading the books, listening to the podcast, like, doing our own little rituals, which is also necessary. This is not to say that solo work isn't important and necessary, but what we learned about healing in relationship and why it was so much more impactful when we met and started healing together is because so many of your wounds happen in relationship.
Yeah, it's something that's happened to you in
Yes,
the context of being, yeah, in a dynamic with someone else, yes.
in a dynamic with someone else. And so Gina almost got to be like mother, sister, friend, she got to play all of these healing roles for me in which I experienced previous wounds in past relationships, which
Mhm.
I could have never healed by myself because those weren't self-inflicted wounds, they were relational
Mhm.
wounds. And so I mean, I don't want to cry right now, but like you coming into like my life, like
Oh my god.
damn
Oh
it.
my god, stop. No.
We're crafting. We're crying. We're crying laughing.
Yeah, that's a term I coined, crying, laughing, crafting.
But I was just like able to heal like so much like through you like mirroring me and yeah, so okay, I'm just going to stop. You just can't heal alone. Gina, say more about that. Say say more about that.
Okay, okay. Wow. Tears. Okay, I'm just gonna remember what the question was, or what the thing was. Yes, healing and community. I mean, what I wanna say is that I just really hope that every single person listening gets to experience a relationship like this, where there is safety and there is resonance and a sense of really feeling seen. I think the most common thread between all of our clients, ones that we've worked with individually and together, is that they're all feeling really alone,
Yeah.
because they're on this journey and they don't have a lot of people around them to understand and have the language and be on the journey with them. And so they often come to us or come to the things like our retreats or our group coaching things. And such a huge byproduct of those experiences is that they have these lifelong baked in people who get it. And, it's one of those things that you don't know what you're missing until you get it. Like, when you and I, like, now we're obviously we're friends, but we always say things like, I can't even remember what my life was like before you. Like, I can.
Well, in a way, I don't even know how I was living before you. I was
That's the
living
thing.
from such a wounded place, but I thought that was just life.
Mm. And I mean, I think there's just so many things that you get mirrored back. Not just you, both of us, just people in general. We get mirrored back in these relationships. There's so many times that you and I would respond to something so differently, but hearing the way that you would respond is so healing for me. It just gives me so much more insight and context, and there's just medicine inside of you and inside of people outside of ourselves that we don't have that in stock.
Yeah.
Like, only you have that in stock in your specific pharmacy. And so I really did not value or even know to value these types of relationships until I met you, because I don't know, I think I was just always somewhat of a lone ranger. A lot of the times I moved a lot, and I always had friends contextually because of work, but I switched jobs every few years too. So I didn't have a lot of long lasting relationships. So I don't think I ever really settled into truly being able to trust fall into a relationship.
Yeah.
And so to have that with you really opened a portal of healing that just couldn't have happened solo.
Just couldn't have. And I think you also had, we've talked about this, but a subconscious belief that like people weren't going to be able to see you and understand anyways.
Oh,
And
definitely.
yeah. Yeah, and I think we use that as a shield to protect ourselves from maybe the pain that possibly embarking on a new relationship with a friend or a partner could bring up, but
Mhm.
in that way we do prevent ourselves from healing those relational wounds, and those are the first wounds we experience, the wounds of being in relationship to our parents, our siblings. These are the first places we learned about our value and our worth, messages that were false. And so yeah, when we try to live our life in a silo on our own, we don't get to be mirrored the messages we really need to hear.
And I think one of the really, really cool byproducts of this is how much even me sharing with you something that I'm experiencing
Oh, so healing
becomes
for me.
medicine for you, even though I'm the one
Yes.
who's receiving support from you and vice versa. And I think that's one of the coolest things that happens in our group containers and our retreats is that everyone's share somehow connects in some form of thread to everyone else and helps them to feel seen. And so just literally existing and expressing and sharing your truth in a conscious relationship is medicine for everybody involved.
Yeah. Oh my God. And it's, I mean, 100%. And that's why the work that we do is so community oriented. I mean, Gina
Yeah.
just told you we had we have these free community calls, by the way. So if you're not in this free spiraling higher community, get your booty in there, make sure you're a
Yeah.
conscious bestie. But you just met up with someone physically in person who comes to our calls. Obviously, we host our retreats, which just reminds me, we have the upcoming one in
Yes,
June.
we do.
June 7th through 10th, spiralers, this 2025. We're halfway sold out, so if you're interested, you should go to the link in the show notes. I was like, it's right there. I gotta plug it. But it is truly making these connections and being mirrored and feeling safe with others that
Yeah.
really translates into us feeling safe in the world.
And I also want to preface this by saying, I think you might have already touched on this, but there absolutely is inner work for us to do and healing for us to do solo. I do think that
Yes.
that's absolutely a component, but the whole scope of it cannot be complete without the relational aspect. And what's so cool too is I think between our relationship especially, it always amazes me how much more mirrors we have. Like, you just pop out,
Mhm.
like, I feel like you're just like have mirrors all over you.
You're like, "Didn't see that."
I'm like, "Oh,
Okay.
okay. Thanks for showing me that. Didn't see that one coming." And there's just been so many, and I think the deeper the relationship goes, the clearer the mirror gets. And so
Yes. And the more you learn about
totally.
not just them, but yourself. And I
Yeah.
think that self-love for me has been the byproduct of self-knowledge.
Mm.
And I could not know myself fully until I was in these conscious relationships
Mhm.
that were showing
Mhm.
me who I was, the good and the quote unquote bad, all the things I needed to grow and heal from. I couldn't see them when I
Yeah,
was alone. It was like having all these blind spots. And so, yeah, I
totally. I
mean,
mean, think about it. You literally can't see your own back.
you're not even meant to see your own face.
Yeah. So true.
We invented mirrors. You could only see yourself in like a muddy river, right? Historically. So it
Yeah.
is weird to observe yourself. And that's why they say things like beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Like we're not supposed to be thinking about beauty in ourselves, but beauty in what we see. And so seeing another is, I think, the way into the window into seeing yourself. And
Mhm.
I think, yeah, that's why so much of this work has been about helping people feel seen and allowing ourselves to be seen in others. I tell my clients all the time, and the girls who've been to their retreats and our programs know, as much as we are helping heal them, God, they are so healing us.
Oh my
Like
goodness,
it's a
yes.
two-way street.
Absolutely. And I also just wanted to add that when you start engaging in these relationships that are conscious, it's so interesting because it kind of works in a cycle or like a circle almost, where when you get into these types of relationships that are conscious and so loving and reflect so much of the healing and all those types of things, it actually creates a new standard for the relationship with yourself, which then further
Yeah,
creates a whole other standard for the kind of relationships you're willing
you're
to
going to
tolerate and
attract.
be
Yeah.
exactly be engaged in. And you end up attracting more relationships that mirror
Wow.
that thread and that kind of
Wow.
energy. And so I think that's one of the biggest things is that the way that you treated me really did raise the bar for how I treat myself, which then helped me to
Mhm.
continue to keep on attracting and really having boundaries around the kind of relationships I was investing my energy and time into. So it just raises the bar all around.
Wow. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, just like the compound effect
Yeah.
of healing and community and having these conscious relationships. Wow, that's so good. It's so true. Like definitely what you've shown me changed how I relate to myself, which changes how I relate to others, including not people, things like my business. Like it's just
Yes.
completely changed all of those things. And
Yeah.
so, God, we could say so much more about that, but I think we did. Don't we have a
We
conscious healing
do.
episode,
I'm
conscious
sure we could do
relationships?
another one of those, I'm sure.
I think it's like
Um,
episode 77 or something like that.
it's somewhere in there, somewhere in
Don't
our
quote me on
library.
that, but
Yeah.
yeah, somewhere in the archives, episode 70 something about how to heal conscious relationships or something like that. Okay. Number
Four.
4. Yeah. So this is kind of a manifestation point that we
Hmm.
want to make, and we'll do a whole episode about that. But
Yes.
whatever it is that you are attached to, so you want the big house, you want the money bags, you want the perfect body, you want the perfect partner, you want the job promotion, whatever it is,
Hmm.
that is a somatic experience that you are after.
Yes.
And the secret is that it's an experience that is accessible to you now.
Hmm.
Ooh, ooh. Again, that one took me a really long time.
Oh, that one took
Really
so
long
long.
time.
And that's one that we've heard so many times, especially if you've been an Abraham Hicks person for a long time. They're like, you
Yep.
already have it. You already have it. And you're like,
Yeah.
no, I don't.
Yeah. Abraham Hicks is like, ask and you shall receive. Like
Like,
it's already done. And I'm like, where?
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 I've been asking. Where's the part where it comes? Where is it? Am I in the wrong post office? Like, it felt like a really nice thought and it
Yeah.
sounds really good, but it competes with your logical brain that's looking around like,
Yeah.
where is it though? Yeah.
Yeah, you're looking for the 3D physical printed evidence of the
Yes.
feeling, but yeah, I was like, "Put that on a poster," but, like, get no.
Put on a poster.
But how you know what I mean? Like, you read all those posters as a kid in school,
Yes.
and you were like, "Okay, sure, great." But I swear to God, healing is going back in time and realizing, man, those posters, like, they were on point.
Yeah.
Like,
They're
it's all within you,
the altitude. No, your attitude determines your altitude.
great one. Like there were so many that I remember walking by in the hallways and just I guess on a subconscious level they were going in there somewhere. But then like my sort of human 3D experiences kind of countered those thoughts
Yeah. Yeah.
or those messages and I was like, yeah, definitely not. That's not true. That's just something you put on a poster.
Hmm.
But this idea of it really is all within you I could not access that until, kind of similar to what we said for the first point, until I tried really hard to find happiness through a thing.
Yes.
Like, and I genuinely think that every human has to go on that journey. Like, if
I
you right
agree.
now are like, I want to make 7 figures, go, like, get it. Like, do what you have to do to try. Like, if you want to win the Oscar, get the Oscar, because I think you have to hold that thing in your hand and not feel it to know that it was never that. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
but also fortunately.
Yes. It's a good thing. It's a really good thing. And I think it's one of the most painful realizations, though, because you
Yeah.
fight tooth and nail to get this thing to finally feel better, to finally love yourself, to finally feel like you're enough. And then you get it and you're like, wow, I still feel the exact same. And it's really, that is the experience teaching it to you. I don't think
Yes.
I would believe, I mean, I didn't believe anybody. I was like, well, you're just saying that because you have it already. Or like, you're just saying that because you don't know how much I want it. And we make all of these justifications in our mind, but you truly do, I think, need to go through what it feels like to have it, to know that that's never what you were actually after. And one of the questions
Mm.
that I remember we kind of asked ourselves a lot was like, but if you got the thing that you think you wanted, but it felt terrible, like, would you still want it? And
Right. And you're like, no.
obviously not. And it's like, well, then it isn't about the thing. It's about the thing, the feeling that you are going
Mhm.
to get from this thing,
Yes,
right?
the
Like if you
beliefs
could
about the
have,
thing.
for the person who has $1 million, it's like, okay, fine, you can have 1 million, but yeah, you'll have no friends. And, like you'll feel like crap every single day.
Yeah, and you can't walk anymore. You'd
Yeah,
be like,
no
"Oh,
walking.
God, I don't want
Like,
that."
I don't want that, right? So you have to really ask yourself to that degree, and it'll really illuminate for you that's not really what you want. What you want usually from something like money is a sense of freedom, maybe a sense of relief, maybe a sense of feeling, like you are enough, whatever that means to you. But all of those things are an inner journey.
Inner journey. Yeah, to feel enough is, I mean, think about this. It's kind of similar to what I said about not being able to hate your way into loving yourself, but it's like if you wanna feel money to feel secure, or if you wanna attract more money in order to feel secure, every time you make the money, you're actually saying to your brain that you only feel secure because of the money.
Exactly.
So you're actually growing your insecurity, because
Mhm.
what if the money goes away? What if I overspend it? What if it disappears? Like, what if I don't
Mhm.
make enough next year? You just made your insecurity a huge problem by believing that money solves it.
Yes.
So again, long time to integrate. Long time. I was like, no, I am certain. I am certain that if I make this much and if I lose this much weight and if I achieve these things, I will be in a perfect heaven on earth where I'm never disturbed and I'm happy forever.
Mhm.
And that's just not life. It's just not reality. And I love that some of those things were able to happen. I was able to, by sheer force and grit, make those things happen. You and I both, obviously, people who've listened to this podcast know that we were big time realtors where we live. And so we were like selling $1 million homes, helping tons of clients. And we were able to secure like the financial sort of image we wanted to create.
Mhm.
But the somatic experience of being who we are didn't really change. If anything, it got kind of worse. No, for
Yeah,
sure worse.
definitely
Yeah,
worse. I was like, for sure worse.
for sure worse.
Definitely.
And that needed to happen for us to figure out, like, what is it then? Okay, like, I got the money, but that didn't cure me of this feeling of like insecure and unworthy and not enough. So if it's not going to be that, then what is it?
Mhm.
And that was when the actual journey started.
Yeah,
And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. That's why this podcast exists.
that's very true. That is why this podcast exists. Yeah, and I think it's just a really hard truth to come to terms with because we are so conditioned to chase and
Hmm.
to strive and to work hard to get something, and everyone's kind of chasing after the same thing. It just kind of reminds me of like when people just start running and you don't know why they're running, you'll just like start running too. It just kind of feels like that, where
Yeah.
everyone was on a treadmill and we just jump on the one that we're on as well and we keep going, and it feels very, again, counterintuitive to not want those things in those same ways. But I think now we both know that we know how to desire something without the attachment, which is
Yes.
a whole other
God.
topic we can go into. But at the
Oh,
very,
yeah.
very basis of it, I think the first lesson it would have been nice to know sooner, is simply that that
Would have been nice.
whatever. It would have been nice. It would have been a nice bonus, but also again, I wouldn't have believed it either.
Oh,
And
no.
so,
I remember
yeah.
when people would be like, "Oh, like, trust me, like, money doesn't make you happy." I was like, "Okay, wink, wink.
Yeah,
That's just a
totally.
thing you say, right?" Like, I'm like, "It is about the money though, isn't it?" And it's so crazy because, like, I love the journey we've been on, and especially just my own journey. Like, my entire speech this weekend
Yeah.
at the conference was literally about this. And I just thought, wow, I could never have delivered this message had I not lived the experience. I wouldn't believe you. Like,
Well,
I'd
that's
just be
what
like,
makes like the richest person is really rich in experience, not in
yeah,
dollars. Because dollars doesn't actually indicate any depth, actually, right? But
it's so
experience
true.
is like that's the most valuable thing that we can really have. And I would say the highest credential anyone can have is what have you lived?
What have you lit? Actually, it's so interesting. I met a girl at this conference who has a seven-figure business selling like a product, like a pretty cheap product, I guess. And, it's funny because she's at this conference now and she's realizing like, "Man, this is what I've been missing though." Like, I've just been, like, missing, like, connecting with other women and, like, relating because it's like, yeah, like, she does run a seven-figure business, but that doesn't give you connection.
No.
Like,
And
like,
especially
that
not
doesn't.
with yourself, for sure.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so it's just interesting that I'm sure a lot of people went to the conference. It was literally called the Rich Girl Conference, but a lot of people went probably thinking, "Oh, I wanna learn how to make more money." And, like, yes, we did talk about that. My whole thing was about attracting abundance and wealth, but what we're really there to feel and really here on earth to feel is love and connection.
Yes.
And you can experience money as a result of that, but
Mhm.
money cannot give you that.
And yeah, I think one of the best feelings on this journey has really been when we have been able to tap into that somatic experience of the thing that we think we're going to get from this external thing. And we find, oh my God, it's literally right here. And not just knowing it, but actually feeling that. And there have been so many moments where nothing needed to change externally, but my internal experience was flooded with this sense of abundance and fullness and completion and wholeness. And this freedom of not needing anything outside of you, I think is one of the most, I mean, amazing
Yeah.
experiences. I can only honestly only ever feel that amazing because of how hard it was. So
The
contrast
contrast,
is,
baby.
yes, contrast is where it's at. Maybe
Yeah, we
that's a
should.
number 6.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
we should make that one of
Yeah.
the things too.
Totally.
The contrast is the best teacher. Oh my
Yes.
gosh, like so good. But I know
Yes.
you have to go, so we'll quickly
Yes.
do the
Okay,
fifth
okay.
one. This one kind of ties them all together, I think. But
Yeah.
healing is not a destination.
It is not a destination. You don't
It
get
is
there.
all about the journey. Well, actually, our favorite kind of quote is
The
the journey
journey is
is the
the best
destination.
part.
Well, that yeah,
That too.
yeah. They go together.
Yes,
Journey
yes,
is the
yes.
best part, the journey is the destination. It's funny because I said to, my best friend Rena, I said to her recently, "The journey is the destination." And she was like, "No, I think you're wrong. I think it's the And I was like, "No, it's a play on words. Like,
Yes.
understand the paradigm I'm coming from." And I
Yeah.
explained it. And
That's
she
so
was like,
funny.
"Oh," because I was trying to say that it's not about getting somewhere, it's about being on your journey. Like, that is somewhere.
Yes.
That's
100%.
not trying to get somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that healing is not some finite marker that you just tag and then you're done. This is literally the whole basis of our entire podcast title, which is Spiraling Higher, and that it's not something to finish and complete and just be done with. Healing, as we've talked about many times, is really about the way that we relate to ourselves and changing the way that we relate to our wounds, and even changing the way that we relate to healing. I think so much of it is
Yes.
around, yeah, the way that we move, the way that we be, I think is so much more. And that's a daily thing. It's a present
Daily.
moment, ever evolving thing. And so on one end, I would say that would have been frustrating for us to learn at one point of like, wait, this doesn't stop. Like we
Well,
don't
I'd
get
be like,
somewhere.
what's the point in doing it then?
Totally,
I'm like, how do
totally.
I complete it and get a certificate?
Yes. Yeah. How do I know I'm done?
Yeah.
So it kind of is a painful realization there too. However, it's also so like, thank
Freeing.
God. Thank God I don't ever have to be done this. Thank goodness there isn't somewhere to just get to because it allows you to actually stay here instead of chasing this
Yes.
illusory future, right? And as you would say, this future that you're hoping to save you from the now, but that's never going to save you from the now.
Well, there is nothing but the now.
Exactly.
And the now is only hell because you think there's somewhere else to get to.
Exactly.
But when but that's the thing, when you realize there's no done, there's no end, there's no destination, you're like, "Well, I guess now's good."
Exactly.
I guess I'll just be where I am, and it changes your relationship to yourself and the now, which I think they mirror each other.
Yeah, and that's healing in and
And
of itself.
exactly, and I heard something that changed my like, just broke my brain, like, a couple years ago, and this is not the exact wording, but it was something like, "In the beginning, it's always about getting to the end, completing it, finishing
Mhm.
it, but at the end, it's always about going back to the beginning." And I was
Mm.
like, "Oh god, that's so true," and, like, I have, like, interesting thoughts about reincarnation, like, I oscillate whether or not I believe in that or not believe in that, but I thought about it from the perspective of reincarnation, and let's just say you get to the end of your life, you, like, did all of this stuff, you got to live as Gina, I got to live as Sam. It's over now. It's like, what do we do next?
Let's Freaky
You'd be like,
Friday it. Let's switch.
let's do it again. Yeah, like, let's do it again. Like, give me a new body. Like,
Yeah.
let's go. Like, that was a ride.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I, like, wake up to this reality that I'm in it right now. Like, I'm not at the end, I'm not at the beginning. I'm, like, I'm in the best part.
Yeah.
Like, when I look back and be like, "Man, like, that was so good." Like, when I was just in my 30s and I was just, like, figuring it out, like, that was a good part. And instead of thinking about trying to get to the next decade, the next milestone, I just love, like, this juicy part right now.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's very indicative also in parenting where a lot of times we want our kids to like stop growing up or we wish they got bigger so it'd be easier or whatever the heck it might be. But I think that's been one of my greatest lessons in parenting is just to love this day, this moment, this age, and fully receiving the gift of that. This is the best part. Like, every part is the best part as long as you're in the present. Every present moment
Every
is the best
Yeah.
part. Yeah,
Well, and it's funny because, like, any part that you thought was great in the past was also a present moment. You just
exactly.
had less resistance to being in that particular present moment.
Mhm.
And so it is changing your relationship to the present moment. It's not believing that there's a place you get to, that you cross a finish line, remove the line. Or better yet, bring the line to where you are right now.
Yeah, it's just in your hand.
It's it's
You are
right
the
here.
line.
Like, you are the line. You are
Yeah.
I actually said that in a post before where I was like, "Stop trying to get to the goalpost. You are the goalpost."
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
there's no thing that you need to get outside of you because, well, again, it's all within you.
Yeah, if there is a destination, it's right here.
It would be the now.
Yeah,
The
you've
destination is the
already
now.
made it.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
safe.
It's like,
You're
"Ding,
safe.
you're here."
You blinked and you were here.
Yeah.
Um,
We've reached your destination. You've never
you've
left.
reached your yeah, you've
Yeah.
never left and you can't actually leave. There's
Exactly.
actually we took away your car.
Yes.
It's kind of like the wherever you go, there you are. Like, you don't actually
Mhm.
technically go anywhere because you're always where you're going. And
Mm.
so, again, this might all sound completely, totally airy-fairy, or you're like, "Damn, that is
Yes.
a truth that took me forever to integrate too, and it is hitting hard right now." And so,
Yeah.
whether it feels like it's out of your realm or it feels like it's deeply resonating, we just hope that us providing these 5 truths that we knew sooner, but respect that we learned them in the time that we did, just made you feel a little bit more seen on your spiritual journey. These truths were really not easy ones to integrate, and I think that this game, if the human Earth world is a game, it was designed for it to be difficult so that we could experience ourselves learning those lessons at the level that we've been able to.
Mhm. It's the only way.
It's the only way.
Mhm.
I know the only way is through. I wish they made another way, but that's the only one they have going on right now.
All roads lead back to this. Every detour you think you're getting like a shortcut, you just end up coming right back.
Yes. Oh my it's like, "Oh, you tried to not accept yourself? Sorry." It's like a go through jail card or something
Yeah,
like that. It's like you
totally.
or like go back to
Go
go.
back to the start. Yeah.
It's like go back to the start. That you gotta go back there. And
Yeah.
it's so frustrating when you think you're making progress through the not quote unquote proper way. And then it's like, nope, you got to go back to go. And you're like, no, I was making progress. But then it's realizing that the game ends at the go spot. Like,
Mm.
there's
Mhm.
nowhere, there's nowhere to go.
Mhm. Yeah. We hope that these 5 truths, 5 lessons, 5 reminders support you in your journey. And it's something that you can keep coming back to. Because I will say that I think all of these, we both come back to many, many times as really beautiful pillows of comfort and reminders and wisdom. So, yeah, let us know which one resonates with you the most, and we'll see you on the other side.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. I should have just signed off just then, but
That's
I did just
okay.
want to say one more time
Oh,
that
yes.
if you are seeking conscious community, intimate healing, and also a little bit of an escape, come with us to La Ventana, Mexico.
A conscious
That's
escape, if you
a
will.
conscious escape. That is 90 minutes outside of Los Cabos. So you'd be flying into the Los Cabos International Airport. All the details can be found in the link in our show notes. But if you have any questions, you can DM us. We really work hard to create the most perfect safe space. And
Mhm.
so if that is calling to you, let us know. And again, we hope you enjoyed these 5 things we wish we knew sooner. See you in the next one. Thank you so much for listening to this honest conversation. We hope it brought you peace, clarity, and a little bit further along your spiritual journey.
If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to us if you left us a 5-star rating and a review so we can bring you more conscious conversations, spiritual topics, and guests.
And we lovingly invite you to join our free Spiraling Higher community by clicking the link in the show notes to continue this healing dialogue and share with us how this episode impacted you.
Come on in, introduce yourself, and meet your conscious besties in a safe space for healing conversations between us and other like-minded people on their healing journey.
Here's to Spiraling Higher.